We glamorize being busy, having plans. It's not unusual to schedule plans with your friends or with someone a month or two out. When we think about this perfectionist mindset or this all or nothing, it's understanding and finding a balance between wanting to change, wanting to do better, to be better, but also accepting that you are enough and you can find contentness with who you are today. This is the idea that progress and self-worth can coexist. So when we're focusing on our growth, that's great. We can also embrace the fact that we're doing well today, not waiting for the perfect job, the perfect boyfriend, the perfect scenario to find that happiness, but instead to find the way to do it today. And often, sometimes that is learning more about yourself and trying new things, and maybe even just saying less to yes, yes to less. I knew that wasn't right, but I couldn't find it.
I knew what you meant. Are you feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all the external pressures and expectations that the new year brings? Maybe you're feeling a little bit stuck in your current situation or feeling anxiety about falling behind. The good news is you are not alone. So many others, myself included, are feeling the exact same way. The further good news is therapy can help. A therapist can help you distinguish external pressures from your own internal values. Develop a timeline that feels authentic to you rather than one imposed by society. Process any feelings of inadequacy or comparison and whatever else you might be feeling or experiencing. Whatever challenges this new year might bring up for you, BetterHelp can help make it easier. BetterHelp is a therapy platform that is entirely online, making it both comfortable and convenient. Simply fill out a questionnaire and you'll be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And don't worry, you can easily switch therapists at any time if it's not the right fit. Start fresh at any day of the year with BetterHelp by clicking the link in the show notes or go to betterhelp.com/unfulfilled to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Hey everyone, welcome back to Unfulfilled. I'm your host, Camille. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's guest episode. Today I am joined by Mariana Cuomo Mayer, the founder of Grata Wellness. Grotta is a New York City-based wellness organization that encourages you to thrive rather than survive. In addition to her company, Mariana is also a board-certified health and wellness coach and helps all her clients feel empowered and inspired to show up for themselves and prioritize their health and well-being through balance and educating them on best practices to feel more inspired and fulfilled. And she's going to help us do the same today. So Mariana, thank you so much for showing up and taking the time.
Yes, thank you for having me. I love your mission.
Thank you. I love yours as well. I think we are very aligned. What fueled your passion to start Grata Wellness?
Yes. So as we were beginning to chat about earlier, I really started Grata Wellness with the mission of empowering others with this idea of thriving rather than just surviving, focusing on burnout prevention, stress management, sustainable lifestyle habits that feel good and work for you. And this really came out of my own personal experience with professional burnout. And as a young 20-something, it was really challenging to feel like I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I didn't have a good sense of my body and my mind and didn't really know myself. And so what I have learned for myself that I now coach with clients is really taking this holistic approach to wellness to help people gain a deeper awareness of themselves, understand how they're feeling at their best, also understanding how they're feeling when they're depleted and not at their best, and being able to identify the why behind what we do. What do you value? What are the things that matter to you? And then together to be able to create that balanced, fulfilling lifestyle that works for each individual person, which is always going to be unique because we're all unique people.
Gosh, now I know we're really aligned. That was so beautiful and so needed in New York City and yes. Wherever you're listening from. I'm sure you can use some of this in your everyday life and know people that can as well. I would love to hear more about your experience with burnout, like you just mentioned. What did that look like and feel like for you?
Yes. So I would say my first experience was after graduating from Yale University. I embarked on the Teach for America journey and was placed in Chicago, a city I'd never been to before. And I was so eager and excited, recognizing that it is known to be a challenging experience because you're moving into a new community you're not familiar with, you're teaching, not having a teaching background. And so I was enrolled in school to get my master's. I was teaching, being a young professional for the first time, living in a new city. And I think because I knew what I was doing was so important to me and meant so much, it was very easy for me to pour all of myself into it. And so that would look like weeknights, working really late into the night. On the weekends, maybe I would go out on a Friday night with the friends that I had made. And then all of Saturday and Sunday, I was regretting going out, spending that time prepping for Monday, constantly feeling behind, constantly feeling like I wasn't doing my students right and, could have been doing better. And physically, I was feeling not good. I was always tired. I was hardly eating breakfast or eating a bar on the way to school, not taking time for myself. If I was exercising, it was a high intensity class, maybe once every couple of weeks, certainly not moving from a place of joy and enjoyment. And I also had an unbalanced gut, which I hadn't recognized. I sort of felt like what I was feeling wasn't totally normal, but certainly wasn't spending any time thinking about it. And it actually wasn't until the COVID-19 pandemic, which of course was such a challenging time for so many. But for me, it was the time that I drove across the country back to my family in New York and really honestly had my family as a mirror to see the version of myself that was so at this time depleted and down and exhausted. And also some of the symptoms I was having physically, my mom's a doctor, recognizing that those things weren't normal. And it was the first time that I really had the opportunity to face them myself, to take the time and energy to look into them, to start with a functional practitioner who really helped me gain an awareness of myself, both through the foods that I eat, the sleep, the energy, the activities that I was doing, and really learn for myself what wellness modalities speak to me. So I tried meditation and yoga and running for the first time. I think I never had run more than 2 miles. And it's another story, but I ended up running 2 marathons and just really gaining so many interests and hobbies that I really developed a passion for my health and wellness and understood how to prioritize myself. And so I took that back with me to the classroom once we were teaching in person again and brought some meditation strategies and yoga to my young ones. And we were investigating whole fruits and vegetables. And I was having fun in that way. Ooh, sorry, lost my headphone. And
Wild AirPod.
yes, wild AirPods. And I also recognized for myself that what I had learned over that, 6 month period, how important it was to take care of my well-being in order to be the best person for my family, for my friends, professionally to show up. I also recognized that long term, in order to be the best teacher and the best person in the classroom for those students, it would force me in a way to kind of turn off the empathy that I was carrying home every night. So even though I maybe set a few more boundaries or was bringing some of my interests and more confidence to my classroom, I also recognized that just the person that I am couldn't shut that off. And so I made the decision after I completed the program to take a step away from teaching and invest a little bit more in my what I was hoping would be my work-life balance and having a profession that wasn't as emotionally involved, knowing that that just wasn't one of my strong suits, being able to sort of like turn that emotional empathy off at night. And so I became a chief of staff at a health tech startup based in New York. And at the time it was remote. So I was able to ski or in theory ski, but be living in the Colorado area for a little while. And what was so important about that was I learned so much about the health tech industry and so many different sort of hard skills. Being a teacher, you certainly learn many soft skills, problem solving, a lot there, but it allowed me to really develop and hone some business skills and also learn about myself that this pattern of not necessarily setting boundaries and prioritizing work over my personal life persisted. So now in this chief of staff role where, it's a small startup, things are always happening. There's always mini crises and problems to solve. And I was finding myself waking up in a lurch at 5 a.m. to check my phone and sort of starting the day off with a panic. I would be on the phone at a friend's wedding. I would be working on a Sunday and didn't find myself setting those boundaries. And so finally, at this time, about a year into that role, I worked with a coach. And that coach helped me understand that my gifts and skills and passion really were in helping people, and what I had from teaching, being so close to the students and their families and what I love from that, I was now far from in this role. But on the other hand, I wanted to be in this sphere of health and wellness. And imparting the knowledge and the wisdom and the tools that I had learned myself that allowed me to feel so good, but actually learned to do that in my personal life. And so I really dug into learning about different modalities and what I could embark on, whether that was therapy or social work or coaching or, following my mom's footsteps and becoming a doctor, right? So there were so many things that I was looking into. And what I really fell in love with about health and wellness coaching is that so much of what you do as a coach or what you receive as the client, the participant, is gaining the understanding in yourself, right? So, me as a coach, I can do so much to help hold up that mirror and guide somebody towards the things that they want to do. But really, what you're gaining is insights in yourself and really a sense of empowerment of the changes that you can make in yourself, the mindset shifts that you can have, and the power that you have in yourself. And so I loved how action oriented it was, but also how empowering it is for the individual. I am no guru. I am no person that any of my clients need to be relying on forever. And I loved that it allows people to, soar off into the sunset in a place of thriving. So that is my long winded journey.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing all of that. Couple things I love. The fact that your journey started so different than where you are now, and that's one thing that I would really like to highlight initially. Wherever you are now, whatever you're doing that might be leaving you feeling unfulfilled or feeling that burnout, like Mariana described, that doesn't have to be your end destination. It's just a stepping stone. You are learning so much in your current experience, and what you're learning might just be what doesn't serve you. Just like so much about your Teach for America experience taught you, okay, yes, not only resilience and how to lead a class full of students and all that, but it taught you all the things that don't serve you. It kind of instructed you on the path forward by showing you signs of burnout and things that weren't serving you. And so I think that's a really beautiful and inspiring reminder for anyone who might be experiencing these things, to know that there is a path forward. You just have to get curious about it, maybe seek some help, seek a coach, and really reflect on what is serving you about your current experience versus where you would maybe like to go moving forward. So I think that's such a beautiful part of your journey. And I just love the zigzag, the non-linearity about it. And I think that is something that a lot of us need to hear. I also think it's really important to address this idea of burnout. So I'm really glad we took the direction there, because I think our society, especially in New York City, if anyone listening is in New York City, but in any city, our American society has glamorized this idea of working all the time, of burnout. How late are you working? How many hours did you work this week? What are you making? It's all about work. And especially if we don't feel aligned to the work that we're doing, that is just the path to burnout. Like working these unsustainable hours on something that might just be draining us, that we're not even passionate about. It's not a way that a lot of us want to or should be living. And so I think that the work that you're doing and the work that I'm trying to do is really important for a lot of people to hear, because we've normalized those feelings of feeling exhausted, of living for the weekend, of going out Friday nights to burn off steam because we're so unhappy throughout the week. And I think burnout is a really hard thing to overcome and escape, because, okay, but I don't know how to do anything else, or I have no idea what else I want to do. And so, third thing that I love about what you shared is that you just started to sprinkle in wellness into your teaching, right? Like, you didn't make the jump immediately to quit teaching and start Grata Wellness. It was a journey. You started to incorporate meditation and mindfulness in the classroom. And then you shifted to working at a health startup, continuing those practices on the side. And so that's the other thing that I want to highlight, that doing something on the side and just starting to get curious about it and explore it is the best way to go. Like, it doesn't have to be such a black and white overnight switch, and it probably won't. It's a journey. And I think sprinkling in things on the side to get curious and slowly incorporate them before making a switch is a really good way to start to move out of that burnout and get curious about what might be better for you.
Completely. I think you so well captured that. And I think it's also really timely because when we think about this idea of burnout and sort of what you're speaking to is that all or nothing mentality that many of us
Mm.
have, I think in this time of year, we're seeing it everywhere. It's January. We're talking about new year, new me, and all the things, the resolutions, the things that people want to accomplish. I champion anybody who wants to change and invest in themselves at any time. I encourage people to shift away from the idea of needing to reinvent yourself each year and instead focus on how you can become more mindful, more aware, more intentional, and then more action oriented to accomplish the things that you want to. And also knowing that sustainable change doesn't come from just overhauling completely who you are and starting from scratch, but instead to build on who we are already, just as you're saying, having an enhanced sense of curiosity, listening, learning. What are the things that are filling me up? What are the things that give me energy? Who are the people that I'm around that make me feel encouraged and supported and strong? On the other hand, when are the times that I have that pit in my stomach, that I'm feeling depleted, that I don't feel supported? And then allowing ourselves to create habits that align with those values. And when we think about this perfectionist mindset, where you so beautifully, I think, captured the New York working ethos around, how much are you working and all of that. I think it also bleeds into just general busyness. Like people are busy. We glamorize being busy, having plans. It's not unusual to schedule plans with your friends or with someone a month or two out. And so when we think about this perfectionist mindset or this all or nothing, it's understanding and finding a balance between wanting to change, wanting to do better, to be better, but also accepting that you are enough and you can find contentness with who you are today. And so this is the idea that like progress and self-worth can coexist. So when we're focusing on our growth, that's great. We can also embrace the fact that we're doing well today. So it's not waiting for the perfect job, the perfect boyfriend, the perfect scenario to find that happiness, but instead to find the way to do it today. And often, sometimes that is learning more about yourself and trying new things, and maybe even just saying less to yes, saying less to, yes to less. I knew that wasn't right, but I couldn't find it.
I knew what you meant.
So, another thing you mentioned is just that feeling of being like lost or stuck and not necessarily knowing the first or a direction, a step to take. And often it just starts with that enhanced awareness, curiosity, taking something as trial and error, and that reflection of like, what is lighting me up? What is making me feel fulfilled? And then taking those even tiny steps to explore. So much of what I encourage, rather than this New Year's resolution idea, which I think is a beautiful one. Instead, if you have some of those big goals, beautiful, reflect on them, speak them into existence, talk about them. But what are the like very small actionable steps instead of getting you from today to the finish line? Just one small step from A to B. So, if your goal is to get in a consistent exercise routine, maybe that's exploring some classes or some modalities that you like and signing up for one class or putting on your calendar one walk run on the West Side Highway. What are the tangible ways that you're starting that feel realistic, that are doable, that then allow you to build sustainably on them rather than feeling like we're either on it or we're off?
100%. I'm so glad you brought up this idea of incorporating small changes, right? Rather than this overnight transformation, because it is such a hot topic, especially in the new year. It's like, what are the 25 things that you're doing starting January 1? And it's freaking overwhelming. Like, we barely have time as it is to like go to a workout class, like you said, let alone have all of these goals that we're expected to just implement overnight. And so I think that's a beautiful suggestion that you offered to take baby steps. And that's something I always try to shift my focus to and remind myself of as well. And when people ask how I started the podcast, I literally Googled starting out, like how to start a podcast. That was all of month one. I was like, what equipment do I need? Like, how do I create the cover art? Like, all these tiny baby steps that over time have aggregated to where I am and what I'm doing now over a year in. And so, as you mentioned, it's amazing to have these bigger goals, but we can break down those bigger goals into just smaller things. And another insight I had recently, especially with January and the new year and kind of this intention to incorporate new things in our lives, rather than seeing it as I need to do XYZ by this date, or I need to accomplish this by that date. It is just an opportunity to incorporate new things into our lives. Like, the more new things you can try out, the better. And then it takes the pressure off having to stick to this schedule or having these concrete goals that we need to work towards. Because I find the reality is we might be not super clear on the path forward and what that looks like. And so I think January and a new year is a great time to just pause and get curious, reflect and say, okay, what is it that I might want to try out and sprinkle into my life? And then when you do try out those things, you gain all these insights, you learn more about yourself. And I think as we try new things, again, small things, doesn't have to be huge changes like trying a workout class, incorporating a new food into your diet. Maybe, I don't know, like watching YouTube videos and like teaching yourself a new hobby or starting a new language, whatever it is. Once you start adding that thing into your life, you can get curious as to if that's for you, if it's a path forward you want to continue to pursue, rather than putting all this pressure on, wow, 2025, I got to do this huge, massive thing. I think the best way to overcome burnout, start to figure out our path forward, is to take small baby steps, maybe in a lot of different areas, like trial and error, and just be honest with ourselves once we do.
Completely. I think it's also such a ideal time to think about the way that we view the world, right? I love this idea that perception is reality, and the way that we see things or understand them is the way that we believe them to be true, which is different for me than it is you or another person with a different perspective. So many of the people that I work with or that I just observe on social media or I've met are very focused on growth and changing and being better. And I applaud that always. I think that's very important, the self-awareness, the desire to grow and change. But I also think that we often overlook the aspect that is appreciation, that is gratitude, that is finding the strengths and the celebration in what we are already doing and where we are today. This new year energy can also be a really nice time to develop a practice of celebrating those small wins, having a gratitude practice, like getting in a better practice of finding the awareness, not only for the things that you can do to grow and change and be better, but also to recognize what you're already doing. And when we think about why a positive mindset can be so powerful, it's not just to view the world as sunshine and rainbows. You and I both know that is not true, but it's gaining the strength in recognizing that we are only in control of the way that we feel, react, and respond to something. And the better that we can get in finding that sense of peace, calm, contentness in ourselves, the better we'll be able to respond to those challenges or understand when we're feeling off or respond in crisis or be your best self even when all is going sideways. So I think using this time to also lean into that. Grata came to me from the Italian derivative of the word gratitude. And I love the idea of gratitude because it doesn't say that, everything is wonderful, but it allows you to see all that is worth appreciating in our lives, but also view our challenges or the things that we're going through from a sense of seeing the growth, the resilience, the strength that we show in those hard times, even if we can't maybe see them in the moment. In hindsight, we can see, just as we were talking about earlier, right? All the zigzags, I can appreciate that they allowed me to gain more insight, growth, and strengthen myself, and now be able to use that knowledge, use those strengths in a different way. So I always encourage that as well as seeing all the things that we can change and strive for. What can we also recognize in ourselves today?
1,000,000%. Not even 100%, 1,000,000%. I think you nailed it on the head. I literally just did a solo episode on this whole idea and topic on focusing on the internal rather than the external. Because with our goals, the success that we want to achieve, with all of these external circumstances we want for ourselves in our lives, we're constantly focusing on the external, focusing on what happens to us, what our lives currently look like on the outside. And by simply shifting to asking who you're showing up as, who you choose to be, the thoughts that you choose to give space to, it's such a beautiful shift that reminds you that you are in control of how you feel about your own life. You're in control of your perception of your circumstance. And instead of saying, like, I'm stuck here, you can say, wow, how grateful am I to have had that experience that taught me all these amazing things. And again, it's not toxic positivity. It's choosing to see that there's always a bigger reason behind the path and the experience that you might be dwelling on and shining a negative light on. And so thank you so much for sharing that. Such a beautiful foundation of the name Grata Wellness.
Thank you.
Mariana, I as promised, literally didn't even look at the questions that I prepared, but I think we literally covered absolutely everything and more that I would have hoped. And I could talk to you for so much longer. But where can everyone find you? Hopefully, there will be a part 2 soon because I think this was really great.
Yes, I would absolutely love that. So you can find me at Grata Wellness, Grata Wellness on Instagram. That's also my website. And I would love to connect with any of you. I love making friends and meeting people, and also here to support anyone on their journeys as well. And I have some in person events in New York, so would love to meet in real life too.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Mariana.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of Unfulfilled. If you liked this episode, don't forget to press follow or subscribe wherever you are listening, and please leave the show a rating or a review. And finally, maybe send this to someone in your life who may need to hear this message as well. Thank you all so much for showing up today, for being a part of the Unfulfilled community, for showing up for yourself, for taking this time, for trying to make your lives better. And I'll see you all again soon on your journeys to becoming more fulfilled.